We're getting deep today.
Yes.
Okay. We're talking about loving yourself before another. And I really want to talk to Lani about this because I feel like as women, self-love is a huge thing. But I was telling her earlier that when people hear about self-love, I feel like there's a judgment around it. They don't really understand what it means. And so we're going to just dive into it today because I think it's really important to, love yourself first. But what does that even mean? So choosing yourself
Yes.
first.
Choosing yourself.
Has there been an experience where you didn't choose yourself?
Yeah.
How did that experience go?
Plenty. For a long time, I was really lost, and the crazy part is I didn't even know I was lost. I didn't, you know what I'm saying? You're just living life and living based on kind of what you were raised to see, and things like that, and you don't realize that there really is another way. Sometimes. So, a lot of my choices, I think I was raised some of my childhood conditioning was to make other people happy, and make sure other people are happy. And I chose guys over my own happiness and did things to just make them happy. And and not think about myself in the process. I was okay, well, if this works for them and this makes them happy, I have to bend and do whatever it is to create that. And then when they're happy, I'm happy, versus sometimes you're not on that same wavelength with the person, and maybe your true self really doesn't want to do that. So now I try to make choices for self, and still considering the other person, of course, but definitely I don't really try to put myself in anything that I really don't want to do, or that goes against just what I live for.
Would you say that insecurity is linked to maybe choosing somebody else over yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Not knowing your self-worth. Absolutely. Because now that I've spent the past year and a half trying to practice these things and really learn these things and really be alone, I'm learning a lot about that. I'm working through old insecurities. I'm building confidence. I'm learning to have self-worth, so that when someone comes into my life, I have a new way and I'm a new person to reflect a new type of relationship.
Until you really love who you are inside and out, it's so much easier to be in a relationship because you're not looking to that person to be happy. You're not looking to them to fulfill you or, to really just serve you. It's more of two individuals coming together. You're already happy. I'm happy, and you're just in a union. But I think especially with movies and all this stuff that we our idea of love, the way we're taught is that you're not happy until you find somebody. You know what I mean? Like the Prince Charming.
Just accepting that you can get to know yourself, and it can be fun getting to know yourself, and not being triggered or influenced by someone else and maybe their opinion of you and how you love.
If you value communication and somebody doesn't, right there, that's...
You're on two different wavelengths.
Yeah, and I feel a lot of times people don't talk about this stuff. They don't talk about what they value or what they really want, and then they get down the line with somebody, and then they end up what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
Because nobody had a conversation. It's okay to talk, and then you have sex. You have sex first, and so then you right away are diving into that vulnerable space, and then you didn't really even get to know them or even know if you don't know yourself, it's a lot, so as far as sex goes, do you think that it's important for women to wait? Because I know that in the past I've waited 3 months, other times I didn't, so is there really even a blueprint for that? If you wait, then it's going to be successful, and if you don't, or is it just something that is really up to you?
Personally, I think that I've had both ends of the spectrum, in a sense where I've had more casual partners in the past. Hated it. It definitely was so not my true essence. Now that I've gotten to know myself, I realized how much I did not like what I was doing, but I was doing it anyways because I thought, you know what I'm saying, like that was pleasure. And I'm like, no, that was very empty, you know. And so now I've been celibate for a year and a half. I feel like when people have sex, like you kind of put the rose-colored glasses on. You know what I'm saying? You start seeing things so different after you've become intimate, you know? So
especially
it's
as women, because it really takes you to that vulnerable place.
Oh yeah, and I don't lie about that now. Like if someone's trying to get me, I'm like, listen, I am not even gonna lie to you. I am not a savage. I will catch some feelings. That will happen. I almost recently caved, but I very much checked myself, and I was like, okay, we just gotta get a hold of these hormones. No.
You know, it's not to make it bad or good. Like sex is not bad.
I don't think
but
so.
I think it all ties back into the self-love piece, right? It's like
it's just a choice.
You're honoring.
Like I'm not judging.
What you want.
Exactly. Like I don't judge. You know, it's not like if you have sex, it's bad. I don't judge people that make those choices. I'm like, listen, whatever you want to do with your body is what you want to do with your body. You know, like I made those choices too, and those choices just didn't make me feel good. But I think some people and some women are maybe capable of handling something a little bit more detached. You know what I'm saying? But I am just not that being.
So what tips can we give, like, for self-love, you know? Somebody who, let's say, is just starting out or doesn't even know where to begin, what is like the first step in loving themselves before somebody else?
Okay. Block your distraction. Whoever it is. Boy, toy, ex-boyfriend. Trust that person is going to be fine. You will be fine. I promise both of your lives will move on. You will continue growing, but that's number one, like for sure. Like an ex is an ex for a reason. Something wasn't working for a reason, and you're only like distracting yourself through your growth. And I feel like you can't zone into self when you're worried about somewhere else. Like it's all about the love energy. So like if you're giving the love energy to someone else and you don't know yet how to give it to yourself, it's going to be much harder to give it to yourself while you're trying to give it to someone else. And started like finding things that I like to do. You know, I love going to sit out in the park, you know, and either maybe writing or maybe just trying to meditate, maybe try to do yoga, just lay there, like, you know what I'm saying, and do nothing. So like I found things like that, or reading certain books or watching certain videos, and I started like occupying my time with all these things, and then I started realizing like I really enjoy these things.
Okay, so block your distraction.
Block your distraction, find and start searching, start figuring out the things that you love, ask questions, and start putting yourself in certain situations and observe how you feel in those situations.
And the more you won't take shit from other people, you'll be able to speak your truth from an empowered place once that self-love is really intact, because you won't let people treat you like shit.
And you can really be your own best friend, like on some real, like I always grew up kind of feeling like that, like feeling like I needed someone, like, you know, someone to call on, speak to, ask for advice. And then I've started realizing in the past like year, I'm like, I really, like, you really have yourself, you know, like you really have yourself to connect to, and it's about connecting with those feelings and knowing what feels good and knowing what you want and not thinking that what you want is too much, you know, because I think that's how I grew up, was like thinking that like the things that make you feel good and like the certain type of relationship you desire, like you're asking for too much. Same thing. And it's like, no, you're not. Like if you want it, you want it. Like this is your life to live, and if it's like for the highest good of yourself and other people involved, and you're not trying to harm anyone or hurt anyone, like there's nothing wrong with your desire. There's like billions of people on this planet. Like you're bound to meet someone that's on your wavelength. Like you are. It might be a little harder in this generation right now, but it's okay.
You can manifest it.
Yes.
Do your little writing.
Yes.
Of what it is that you want to call into your life.
I gotta do that soon. I'm feeling. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you, ladies and men.